Welcome to our Explainer, where we break down some really profound ideas from important texts.
So, today we're looking at a really profound concept that comes to us from the discourses of Kanchi Mahaperiyava. His incredible teachings were compiled into a 7-volume work called De Vathan Kural, which means the voice of God. And what's amazing is that his framework tackles a question that civilizations have been wrestling with since, well, forever.
You know, when you think about it, how does any culture stick around for 10,000 years? I mean, through all the invasions, all the internal squabbles, how does it survive? Well, to get the perspective offered in this text, we have to start with a really fundamental problem. It's a problem that every society, whether it's ancient or modern, has got to figure out.
All right, so let's get right into it. The big fundamental question for any society is this: who does what? It sounds simple, right? But believe me, it's one of the most complex puzzles to solve when you're trying to build a community that lasts. Think about it. For any society to really thrive, you need a ton of different jobs to get done. The text describes it almost like a living body. You've got to have people farming, people trading, people defending the community, and people pursuing knowledge. Every single one of these roles is absolutely essential. Take one away, and the whole thing starts to wobble.
So here's the million-dollar question. How do you decide who does what? I mean, how do you actually get people into all these different roles in a way that's stable, in a way that works not just for one generation, but for centuries?
Well, what if you just let everyone pick what they want to do? The discourse points out a pretty big problem with that. What happens if everyone wants the same cool jobs? Who's going to do the tough, essential, but maybe less glamorous work? Society could literally just grind to a halt.
Okay, so what about the other option? A total free-for-all, open competition for everything. The text suggests that this could be just as bad, if not worse. Imagine every single generation having this massive scramble for jobs. It could lead to total chaos, a ton of resentment, and constant conflict. Not exactly the recipe for a harmonious society, right?
So now that we've laid out the problem, how to get all the jobs done without chaos, the discourse presents an ancient answer, a blueprint really, designed to tackle these exact issues. And that blueprint is called Varna Dharma. At its core, it's a system where social roles and duties are passed down hereditarily. Now, the text is clear that the purpose behind this wasn't random. The whole point was to make sure that all of society's needs were met, for the benefit of everyone. This core idea is called lokakshemam, which means the welfare of the world. The logic here, as it's laid out, is pretty direct. 1. A society has tons of different needs. 2. Open competition can lead to chaos. So, 3. A hereditary system creates stability and order. The whole idea was to get rid of that destructive I win, you lose competition and create a stable, predictable society where you knew every essential job would always be covered. But here's where it gets really interesting. The discourse doesn't stop there. This system wasn't just about organizing society. No, it was framed as something much deeper, a path to spiritual growth for every single person. Get this. The central idea is that when you do your work, whatever it is, as a divinely ordained duty for the good of the world, it stops being just a job. It becomes a spiritual practice. This is known as atmakshemam, the welfare of your own soul. Your daily work, your profession, becomes your way to purify yourself.
And this path was tailored. It wasn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. The discourse gives an example. It doesn't make sense to ask someone doing hard physical labor to fast all the time, right? But for someone whose work is more intellectual, disciplines like fasting were seen as a way to reduce attachment to the body and really sharpen the mind.
Okay, so let's bring this all back to that first big question we asked. How on earth did this culture survive for so long? According to the discourse, this very unique structure is a huge part of the answer. You see, the text argues that the real strength of Sanatana Dharma comes from a kind of two-layered approach. On one level, you have what's called Samyana Dharma. These are the universal rules for everybody, things like truth, nonviolence, purity. But then there's a second layer, Vishesha Dharma. These are the special, specific duties and practices designed for each particular group and their role in society. The text uses a great analogy for this. You wouldn't put salt in a sweet drink. It just doesn't work. The idea is that mixing up these different duties would just create chaos. What works for one role might be totally wrong for another. And keeping those distinctions clear was seen as the key to keeping the whole society in balance.
And to back this up, the discourse makes a pretty bold historical claim.
It looks at other ancient traditions, like the old Greek religions, faiths in Central Asia, even Confucianism and Shintoism, and suggests that many of them declined because they only had those general, universal rules for everyone. The argument is that their one-size-fits-all approach just didn't have the specialized structure needed to really stand the test of time.
All right, we're heading into the home stretch here, and this is where it all builds to a pretty startling conclusion.
So the text lays out all the reasons why, if you were a betting person, you'd have bet against this culture surviving. I mean, think about it. The guardians of the tradition, the ones who were supposed to protect the knowledge, well, they were a tiny minority. They were supposed to hold no wealth, no military power. And on top of all that, they were under constant attack from outside forces for centuries. By all logical accounts, it should have been wiped out.
And this quote from the text just nails it. It is no surprise if a religion that is internally divided and externally attacked dies. The surprise is that it has not died. That's the core paradox, isn't it? It's not the collapse that would be surprising. It's the survival that's the real mystery. And this leads to the final, really provocative thought that the discourse leaves us to ponder. Could it be that the very thing that modernized see as a weakness, this Varna system of division, was actually the secret ingredient to its 10,000-year survival? That this unique structure was what gave it the strength and resilience to outlast countless empires?
So, we hope this dive into the concepts from David and Corral has been insightful and given you a clear picture of the perspective presented in the text.
Thank you so much for watching. Kosh is a multilingual channel where we share spiritual wisdom in English, Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, Gujarati, and Bengali, and we have more major languages coming soon. Our goal is to bring you the timeless treasures of Sanatana Dharma in a simple, clear, and meaningful way. On our channel, you'll find daily videos on Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Lalita Sahasanam, Devathan Karal, Saints of Maharashtra, Saints of Bengali, and the story of Adi Shankara, all available in multiple languages. If you find our content valuable, please subscribe to Kosh so you'll get notified about our daily videos. And don't forget to like, share, and spread this divine knowledge with your family, friends, and community. Let's keep the light of Sanatana Dharma shining bright together.